Welcome in and welcome back to a Tuesday night big show with Matthew Matson and myself, Pop Blender. Obviously, Matthew has dressed for the occasion, and it looks fantastic. How you doing, buddy?
Good. It's a good week. Things are
Yeah,
moving.
man. Yes, sir. Things are a moving, and had some announcements. We've had a movie release that didn't go very well. We've had an animated series we're going to go over, and some other bits and bobs. And we're also going to check back up on the Deadpool weekly box office game and see where that's at. Deadpool and Wolverine here in a little while, and see how much north of $1 billion that it's climbed so far. Real quick, we'll get the niceties out of the way. How has your day been, my friend? Doing good?
Good. Yeah, everything's trucking. Had always funny conversations with patients. Found out that one of my patients worked for Hasbro and was involved with the commercial that brought Snoop Dogg and Martha Stewart together.
Okay.
And was responsible for building the original Pulse Hasbro site, not this latest update. Okay. But he's worked with Bobby and Lenny and Dwight and all those guys on different stuff, and worked with DC and all kinds of stuff. So we're having some good conversations. I've been treating this guy for like 2 years. I knew he kind of did that stuff, but I found out a lot more recently.
That reminds me of something I mentioned to you about having somebody that is a regular at my bar for me for the last 4 years. But probably going back to 2016, 2017, he and his wife. And so I had some interesting conversations with him, found out he was a former Disney employee, and not just a Disney employee, personal friends with Bob Chapek. Mm-hmm. Like actual, talk to him personally on the phone, not just take orders from and stuff like that, as well as obviously Bob Iger. And so we had some interesting conversations. And so maybe we will dig into a little bit of that. At least I'll kind of give you a little bit of what he said about everything that's been going on here recently in the last few years. But really quickly, definitely want to jump in and say hello to the chat. And I got a few banners. We'll pull this one up. What is up, chat? So getting into it right off the bat, let's just say hi to Shark Eyes in the land down under. He was the first one in, Daredevil Dave, right after that. And then, wait a minute, that's you. No. Sometimes on my stream with Down South every other Wednesday, he'll pull like my comments up and he'll say, oh, and there's Pop Blender. I'm like, yep, that's me. Also, let's see, Frostbite. Good afternoon to you, gent. And it is afternoon for you, where it's the darkness of night for us. Where in my neck of the woods anyway. Same time toys, Eric Thurman. It's Jay Gonzo and Woody. Triple Deuce. What's going on, man? So far, so good. And what's going on with all of y'all? Definitely. So I guess to kind of kick things off, we can go in whatever direction that you'd like to go. We can talk about Batman. We can talk about the D23 Disney reveals. What do you think? What are you feeling right now? You spin the wheel and you take a pick.
Well, I just finished it last night. Let's talk some Batman.
Yeah, man. So I actually finished it last night as well. And so let's just get it on here. So has anybody in the chat, just to throw it out there, has anybody actually been watching on Amazon Prime this new Batman Cape Crusader animated series? You can just throw it up there real quick. Don't want to take too terribly long with it before we get into it, but I just want to find out if anybody was actually checking it out. I was a little late to the party. I know it's been out for a little bit. I didn't jump on it right away. I am a huge fan of most all Batman animated shows. whenever I'm on HBO Max and I pull up a lot of the either the movies or whatever, and obviously the animated series, I love some Batman, a lot of graphic novels and stuff. What about you, Matthew?
Yeah, no, I'm a pretty big Batman fan. You know, I always liked Batman, but I really got more into Batman with the Michael Keaton movie, especially Batman Returns. I thought that one was probably one of the best live action Batman movies, just because it was dark, it was detective story, it had a lot of cool, weird stuff in it. But yeah, no, I love Batman, and Batman the Animated Series is my ultimate Batman. The Justice League Unlimited, that whole world of Batman is my absolute favorite. And then the Batman that came later was a really good animated show also. Those two, they hit all the niches for me that I really like about Batman.
The animated series, definitely. Now, when it came out, I was, out playing drums, kind of, doing my thing. I mean, that at that time, I wasn't paying attention to it, I guess, in the moment. It's something I kind of rediscovered a few years later. But then ended up purchasing the DVD set for my son, who at the time was like 2 years old, But I ended up watching it more than he did, and just poring over those DVDs one after the other, and then going back and watching other episodes. And then in recent years, I don't know if any of you guys know who the Nostalgia Critic is, the channel Awesome, but they do a Bat May every year, and for the last few years, and they'll go over through the entire month of May. They do one video a day for the month of May, and they'll pick an episode to talk about from the animated series, and then even after that, the Batman and Robin. And I've loved going back over those too, because those are really a blast, hearing their take on it, but also remembering those episodes. And they do spoil them at the end. They say, hey, if you haven't watched this, we're going to spoil it. So they take about 10 minutes at the end and go through it. So I'm with you. I've loved all those. The Justice League stuff, I think is really great. Some of the best animated stuff out there. I hate using the word content.
Yeah.
It's something new.
Between Batman the Animated Series and the 2012 Ninja Turtle series, when my daughter was little, she would be fascinated by it, but it would also be one of the only things we could do to get her to go to sleep. So
okay.
But she loves Batman the Animated Series also.
Use what you can. And and real quick, not to throw a wrench in this, I just saw this, and I just want to give a shout out because I met Daredevil Dave at Joe Fest. Really, really good dude, man. Had a great time hanging out, and he has his first short video is up on his channel. Throw it in the chat. I don't mind throwing that out there, man. Like if you, or at the very least, just the name of your channel, and just get everybody to go watch that short, man. I'm all about promoting people and sharing the message and all that stuff. So yeah, Daredevil Dave finally got something going, so y'all check it out, man. Also, real quick, 3-star draw dropped in here. Friends, Romans, and countrymen, pour me a beer. All right. Well,
there you go.
I won't be having one of those. I've got a big old thing of coffee and a Red Bull. So over 2 hours, I don't know. That might be a little overkill. So I know, right? So let me get. Okay, I'll tell you what. I'll give you my initial thoughts. There are parts of this series that I actually did like. I thought there were storylines, or I thought at the very least it was it's hard to talk about animation necessarily, I guess, when you don't know the processes. I say well shot, well drawn, storyboarded. I think that there were some exciting scenes, even in the first episode towards the end, with the Penguin. I thought that was exciting, and the back and forth, and for anybody about spoiling it, I don't know how you feel about that, Matthew. I don't necessarily want to spoil it.
Chat.
It's up. Yeah. So if you guys don't care per se about certain plot points that we talk about, then let us know. I don't want to maybe necessarily spoil it because it did just come out.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I think
we'll keep it pretty vague.
yeah, but I think it is entertaining. I think there is some decent writing here. They do gender swap the penguin. That is something that if you've seen some internet chatter about, you will see that. That's the first thing, first and foremost. And then the way they portrayed some of the other characters are not how they've traditionally been drawn. Okay. So if that's something that you can kind of get past with some of the storyboarding, some of the writing and action, I think it's worth watching.
Yep.
But I, like you, am not a fan of how it ended. Give me your thoughts overall, I guess, on the series and what you think.
I was real hesitant to even watch it. I didn't think that I was going to, but I felt like I had to because it's Batman and I have to see what's going on. But this thing had 3 strikes against it before it even started. Well, I guess even more than that, maybe, because this whole series was finished over a year ago, maybe close to 2 years ago. It was already finished.
Yes.
But HBO, Warner Brothers, decided they didn't think it would sell well on their network, so they wanted to make some money off of it. So they licensed it out to Amazon so that they could make something back from it. That wasn't the best idea in my mind. I was like, oh, well, they don't have much faith in this. I don't know if I want to watch it. And then you look at who's making it, and Jar Jar Abrams was making it. And I was like, oh, well, he's full of garbage. So his name is dog foodoo, in Hollywood these days. Nobody wants to trust him with anything anymore because he's generated so many massive flops. They've given him so much money and he hasn't delivered on anything recently. And then I was like, Bruce Timm's going to be involved. And I'm like, oh, well, that's kind of cool. And then Bruce Timm opened his mouth. And
we're going to talk about that too.
He said some things that are probably the most asinine things I've ever heard. He said the Batman villains aren't interesting enough. And so that's why he made some of the changes that he did. And after watching this show, I fully understand that Paul Dini was the creative mind behind all of the BTAS, Justice League and all that stuff. And Bruce Timm was just a designer. And so you pile all those things on together and it doesn't thrill me, but I will say that sitting down and watching this with my wife, we were frustrated but interested enough to continue watching it to the end. There are other shows that I've started with her and we both said, nope, we're done. We don't need to watch any more of this. This is nonsense, like the Obi-Wan show and stuff like that.
Right.
But this, we're like, there's enough here that we can latch on to, but there's a lot that frustrates us about how they distorted the characters and stuff. But
I agree with you. It took me, I don't know, about 3 days to kind of knock it out. I was not a fan, and I'll just go ahead and kind of get into some of what Bruce Timm said because, his comments, and you find this a lot of times. You see it when we go back and we see a creator or someone go back and there's a reboot or there's something, and they go back with either rose-colored glasses or they go back and they look at it through a lens of, oh, well, it wasn't back then for modern audiences or it wasn't for whatever. We've seen that time and time again. Right here in the first sentence of this article on Bounding into Comics, according to showrunner Bruce Timm, the Penguin was gender swapped for the Batman Cape Crusader because both he and the series executive producer felt that The Dark Knight lacked good villains, which I don't even know how you could even say that.
I mean, the only other superhero that has a comparable pantheon of villains is Spider-Man. Spider-Man and Batman have the greatest villains in the entire comic book universe.
And especially, I mean, look, the Rogues Gallery for
Yep.
Batman. I mean, come on.
That's what I'm saying.
And it has plenty of female villains.
Yes.
And also female characters that will go back and forth. Now, not in
Yes.
that way, but in the villain and good person way. Maybe the other way too. Actually,
I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I know, but I'm making a funny here. And real quick, I just wanted to say hi to
Honda.
where is he at? Nah, I know Honda. I swear you can't look at a damn website anymore. Legend series. I was gonna highlight it, and now I'm like, screw it. All right. So bottom line, Honda, is that so in this interview, basically to summarize, Bruce Timm was talking about the fact that one of the problems with Batman as he is there's a lack of good villains. You have Catwoman, you have Poison Ivy, and you have Harley Quinn. But it would be really good to have more female villains. But that's not necessarily true, because you have Alice Tetch, you also have Talia al Ghul. But he said, we really tried to figure out what to do and what the gimmick for the Penguin would be, and what if we gender flip the Penguin. That was their answer to, adding more female villains, I guess.
One of the greatest Batman villains from one of the greatest Batman movies of all time was a woman in Mask of the Phantasm.
Yes.
Right? I mean, that was an incredible villain that they did with that. And, besides Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy and Huntress, who could go either way, and even Batwoman, could play the anti-hero version of Batman as well. Talia al Ghul is one of my favorites. Roxy Rocket, bring her back. I mean, come on. You've got so many to choose from.
So do you feel like this is, in a way, and there's a picture from Mask of the Phantasm, which I always enjoyed. Do you feel like this is one of those comments that is made to try to I guess appeal to the modern audience? Because I don't, if you're not going to sell the show to your diehard Batman fans, they're going to look at comments like that and they're going to go, I'm probably not even going to give it a chance.
Yeah, I think it was a calculated move, but done from a complete place of ignorance. Because they're completely lost. They know nothing about Batman or Batman's lore if they would say those words, because it's like the people that talk about Star Wars and talk about how it's a patriarchal group. And I go, well, wait, all of the top heroes and leaders throughout Star Wars, all of the movies were women. Princess Leia, Mon Mothma, Princess Amidala. I mean, you have these powerful women that are always in place in the Star Wars universe. So you can't say it's a patriarchal universe. To say that Batman doesn't have the greatest villains of all time or Rogues Gallery is an asinine statement. And the diversity of his pantheon is quite significant, and many of those had plays on social commentary, and that was the point of some of them. Between the mental health industry with Jarvis Tetch, with the circus freaks being different, out of place.
Poison Ivy with the environment.
The environmentalist who Mr. Freeze, and just a scientist wanting to save his family, his wife, from an incurable disease, and Harley Quinn, a psychologist that goes psycho.
Which, I mean, look, and she was created specifically for the animated series, and is a great villain, so to speak, and also, I guess, the Joker's, you say plaything, obviously people go, oh, some people, but we know what it is. We know what the dynamic is, the relationship there with the Joker, and we've seen other portrayals of her not needing him, not wanting him, being in a relationship with Poison Ivy.
What they did to Harley Quinn in this show is probably the most disrespectful, because it was Bruce Timm who did it.
Yes, and that's that. I was going to bring that up, but I'm glad you did. It is, she's now, I guess, an Asian big gal in a way. So they changed. Not only they didn't gender swap her, but what they did is they changed her race, and made her look different until she puts her suit on, right? She puts that kind of classic suit on as far as the Joker or that clown costume kind of thing. She has the what is it? You'll know the word performing for
it's her
kings
name. It's
and
the Harley Quinn.
queens. Right.
The Harley Quinn.
Yeah, I guess so.
And you know what? She looked more like the mom from A Christmas Story, or the Santa's helpers from A Christmas Story.
Yes,
that were teasing Ralphie.
Right.
You know, I didn't like the costume design, and it didn't work for her because she cannot be an acrobat with that body. I'm sorry.
No, not so much. There, and she was more of a kind of a torturer, so to speak, with her psychology and prisoners and such. And
to a degree, that plays into an aspect that could be possible with Harley Quinn based on her background, but the character was one of those people who got so into their work, they fell in love with their work so much that they fell in love with the Joker, and completely flipped their mind, broke their mind in the study of the Joker, finding out who the Joker is, getting twisted up in him, and then having this false pretense of love for him, and then him being dismissive of her, but using her to his advantage. Right. You know, that whole relationship is really fascinating if you want to dive into it, where this one is more for the people who don't understand psychology, the people who aren't smart enough to write good stories.
Right. And I want to highlight a few comments. So I want to say hey to Clint Jorgensen too. And he says, I agree with Matthew. It was fun to watch. There are other ways to give a fresh retelling of a great story and universe. And then Ronnie Trickshot joining us. Also, we have 3 Aussie friends hanging out right now. And I love to see that, enjoying the sunshine down there, I'm sure. And then, you know, Clint also says Phantasm was awesome. And then Bobby Wold drops by, says this series has some weird editing. I watched the episode with Clayface, and they're fencing on a stairway, and then it cut away to him running away with no resolve to how that fencing went. And I noticed that also, Bobby. I did, and probably would not have brought that up, actually. But there were a few. So the animation, I sent you a message. I said, it looks like Archer to me. It looks kind of like that show Archer a bit with it's got those heavy black lines around the characters. Does that make sense? Kind of.
No, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. You say Archer style. Yeah.
And so, there were some interesting kind of editing. There was some interesting choppy animation that I noticed as well, especially at the beginning of episode 2, I believe it was, with a character kind of walking and she gets kidnapped, and it was an odd, just the animation. Now, I don't know who animated it. I don't know where they outsourced it to. I don't know where that went.
That's all interesting. Eric Thurman, they've ruined Harley Quinn. How good is Margot Robbie?
Oh, my bad. Sorry about that, man. I didn't mean to take that away from you. My bad. Now I was gonna say, hey, Shark Guys.
Well, he was here early.
He switched accounts.
Eric, okay. So my opinion of Harley Quinn is she works so well in the animated series for all the reasons that I discussed a little while ago.
Yes.
About how they morphed her psychology into that whole thing, and it was done by really intelligent writers and storytellers. Ever since then, Harley Quinn has been bastardized by everybody who's taken it. I don't like Margot Robbie's portrayal of Harley Quinn because it's totally different. And then you have the Harley Quinn animated show, which I think is utter complete garbage.
Oh,
and
that's awful.
This plays off of that as well. In the fact that we're going to change her again. We're going to make her something different again, but they didn't make her something different. They just changed her body style and the way that she wants to engage with it. I don't like it. I don't appreciate it because I don't think those writers are intelligent enough to go deep into those storylines or get into that.
And she also loses. There's the accent. When you change, look, whether you like it or not, it is what it is, right? It's part of her character. So, you give her a completely different accent, a completely different way of speaking. And so it doesn't even feel like, as a matter of fact, to be quite honest with you, watching it, yes, I knew it was her, but in the scenes that she was involved in, it didn't register to me. Like, I didn't
No,
feel like it was her. I just felt like it was some chick that's a psychiatrist that is
yeah,
here at this party, or, Bruce is going to see her, and
totally agree.
and I just didn't even register. And you're right, the dynamic, part of what makes that character what she is because of the relationship
Yeah,
dynamic with the Joker and everything she's gone through to be with him and devote everything to him.
yeah,
And when you pull that away, you pull part of what makes that character what they are. That's part of the DNA of the character. It's why it was created. So, and for Bruce Timm to kind of, okay, okay, it's an alternate take if that's what you
yeah.
want to say, but it those parts did not work for me.
Yeah, and I go back and forth, and a lot of it didn't work for me. Clint, BTES is the greatest animated show of all time, besides The Sopranos. Or
Or
The
The
Simpsons.
Simpsons.
Simpsons. I really like BTES, but there's this trifecta of things for me between Gargoyles, BTES, and Exo Squad, and they're all '90s cartoons, and they were all phenomenally done. Exo Squad would probably beat them out if they got their third season done. BTAS is definitely up there, but those are my tops for animated shows for sure. But I also love the 2012 Turtles. That's
I did
a
too.
little different reason though.
No, I did too, and I've mentioned that a couple times to people, and they just look at me like, "You're still watch Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon in 2023," and of course that came out way back when, but I thought that was a fantastic cartoon. I thought it had a great several seasons, really. And
Eric, I like
yeah,
Margot. I like Margot. I think she's great. Her Harley Quinn, I don't like. I've seen her in other things, and I like her portrayal of things. And she played an interesting character in those movies. I just didn't think it was Harley Quinn.
and also too, something I wanted to highlight from obviously the new Joker movie coming out is that Shark Eyes says, "I think you're going to dislike Gaga." Then,
I don't, I
we'll
don't know.
see. We'll
Yeah,
see.
I'm not going to
Until I see
prejudge
it, I
that
don't
one
know.
because I have a little more faith that that's going to be somewhat interesting
Yeah.
because it looks like they are playing off of the impetus for Harley Quinn becoming Harley Quinn by falling in love with the Joker, by twisting herself into it, or being trapped in the insane asylum herself, whatever, having her mind broken by the Joker and making her identity about him and how that changes things. I think that's fascinating. And
I can't judge it. I'm not going to
yeah,
judge it until I see it because I
yeah,
need to at least do my due diligence and watch the movie so that I can really form my opinion on it
yep.
rather than just kind of looking at a couple clips.
There's nothing I've seen from that movie so far, or anybody said anything from that has detracted from me wanting to go see it. It's
Oh
not
yeah,
high on my list because while I like the first Joker movie, it's one of those kind of one and done things. I don't go back and rewatch Taxi Driver all the time.
I
I
got
don't go back and rewatch Logan all the time. They're great movies, but I don't like rewatching them necessarily.
yeah, no, and I understand that. There's a lot of movies I feel the same way with. I mean, it's like, okay, I've seen it. Yes, it is critically revered or it's revered by fans, but I don't need to revisit it. Now, if I happen to, I happen to, but I
Yeah,
won't go out of my way. I did like the first Joker film.
yeah,
I at the same time felt there were bits of it that dragged on a bit.
yeah.
And it kind of got, I know the message of it somewhat portraying and so I enjoyed it, but I wasn't just like, oh my God, this is a 10 out of 10, and some people
Yeah.
just fell over
I,
themselves
I
for
thought
that.
it was a great critique of the mental health situation in this
Okay.
country, which I think is a serious issue.
Sure.
And seeing that whole play out, that's what I took away from it. And that's why I really appreciated it, is because it's shining a light on some of that. And I also love the fact that you don't know if this was all in his head. Did he ever leave the insane asylum?
Yeah.
you know and so we can play on some of that, go back and forth, but there's ambiguity there, and I hope that they keep that going with the next one. And if they make it a musical with Lady Gaga, I think that would be fascinating. I am curious and how it would play out. because I think they could do something really special with that as well.
Yeah, no, I look, if you're gonna do a second one, it can't be a bog standard sequel.
Right.
It needs to be different. It needs to kind of try or strive to do something as different as a musical.
Yep.
Which it seems to be, we'll see how heavily that is part of it.
Yeah.
But in the first movie, I definitely loved the reveal of the whole thing, the whole neighbor conversations in his head and the relationship and all that stuff, because it's played off very well. They did a good job of playing that off, and it's not quite up there with The Sixth Sense, but it definitely was something I did not think about until it happened, and I was like, holy crap, okay. I did want to mention too, and Bobby Wold said he's surprised Joaquin Phoenix is doing another character, because he's never really done that. He doesn't do sequels. When you back up a dump truck full of money to somebody's mansion, I'm gonna guess that you might be able to change their mind.
Yeah, and that, I mean, that's what they did. He didn't want to make a sequel, but I think when you bring that enough money, that he could be inspired by the money, but also I think he's found something that could be interesting. So I'm curious to see what's going to happen with that.
Real quick, just to touch upon these audience ratings and critical ratings on Rotten Tomatoes. This is not unusual. We've seen it with a lot of shows and a lot of movies. The critics fall over themselves for the access and for the next story and interview. And the audience are the real people who, whether you believe in review bombing, because review bombing can go both ways. It can go for people bombing for the good side. It can be bombing for the bad side, but usually you're going to have a median, and the median is 54% for most people. Did not find this that interesting.
I think that 54% is accurate.
Yeah, it works. It works for me.
But people are torn from it. I did want to mention one thing that really kind of irked me. I mean, there's lots of different characterizations that I felt were really off. The one that was almost unacceptable to me was the fact, until the last episode, Bruce referred to his butler as Pennyworth the entire time until the last episode, when he finally called him Alfred. And I'm like, he raised you, he supported you, he helped you create all of this stuff, and you're going to call him Pennyworth this whole time? What kind of an asshole are you? And they did the same thing with Harvey Dent. There was no Two-Face in Harvey Dent. He was an asshole the whole time.
An asshole the whole time, even up basically till the end, except for one dramatic moment.
Right.
I did not like the portrayal of his face. I thought it looked really goofy. I did not like the very end stinger, because they act as if they're gonna have a season 2, and I just can't imagine how this is and have a season 2.
Did the voice acting for that?
Oh my god,
was terrible!
It sounded like Lex Luthor. It sounded, you know what I mean?
I was like, "What are you doing?"
Oh god, yeah. Anybody that's finished it, let us know. Real quick, I wanted to say hi to Danny Ward too. And Danny says the only critics more full of themselves than movies is probably Hall of Fame Cooperstown baseball voters, and I wholeheartedly agree. Wholeheartedly agree with you, Danny, and I know Danny. I've known Danny for a very long time, actually, going way back, if I'm not mistaken. If that is in fact the same Danny Ward, I do agree. Hall of Fame voters and baseball writers, they feel very, very highly of themselves. And
overall, I say enter at your own risk. You've been warned. Sure. It's got good parts. It's got bad parts. Judge it for yourself if you want to. Skip it if you want to.
Right.
It has a lot of what some would call intersectionalism throughout the whole thing.
Yep.
And then, if it's supposed to take place in the 40s, the technology is all out of whack. So that's whatever. Characterizations, a lot of them were twisted and I didn't care for them, but some of the stories were good. Speaking of Clayface, they went back to the original name for the original character who became Clayface in this. So in BTAS, they used the more modern actor, whereas this one they used the more classical actor. name and did it a different way, and I kind of sort of liked that. I thought that was kind of interesting. It was obvious, it was no surprise, but at the same time, like I said, some of it's good, some of it's bad. I think
it's a 54%. Are we good on that?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
for me, it's a 40% good, 60% bad thing, but that's me.
Okay. Yeah, I'm with you. And I, look, I don't want to give it any more time really
Yeah.
than
Yep.
what it is. It's enter at your own risk.
Yep.
There are parts you'll be interested in probably and find and exciting or whatever you want to call it. But then there's going to be a lot of it where you're scratching your head and you're just kind of like, okay, why did they make this choice? That's the way to me. It seems like. So moving on, and let's move on to some Disney D23 reveals. We'll just kind of run down the list, not take too much time, but there are some interesting movies and shows that are going to be coming out in the next few years. Curiously,
yeah. Okay, so the stockholders meeting took place before D23, right?
Yes, sir.
And then remember what happened right before that stockholders meeting?
Well, remind me real quick.
People were seeing dragons fly around Universal.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Before, so over Universal,
these drone dragons were flying around, and people were fascinated by it. And then the stockholders meeting comes out. The stockholders meeting is, look for less of a return this year because people aren't coming to our parks. And then the dragons flying around, and you see all the stuff that Universal is doing, and their parks are killing it. And that's the way Disney actually makes their money. And then this D23 stuff comes out. So
yeah, and it's interesting too because you're right. Now they did, and I do have another tab, but we don't really cover the theme parks per se, and that's better served by other folks. They do have a lot of stuff in the works for the theme parks, replacing some things and creating some new things.
Well, I'm super excited about the Universal stuff that they're doing. The Universal Monsters World,
right.
The How to Train Your Dragon World, the 3 different Harry Potter things, the Fantastic Beasts and the 2 different Harry Potter things. It's what they're doing is really interesting. Super Mario or the Nintendo World.
Oh, they're killing it. Yeah, no. Look, they're killing it. They're pulling people away from the Disney parks. Well, they have really good IPs for one that they've started to really pull in.
Not just that. They hired all of the people that Disney let go who were actually talented, but didn't fit their narrative that they wanted for the creators in their park. So they fired a bunch of those people, and Universal said, "Hey, come work for us." And look what they're doing. They're making a roller coaster that makes you think that you fly off the tracks. That roller coaster looks amazing.
Something. And I actually. I do want to take my son down to Universal for sure. And he now, I never took him to Disney World. He never really showed any interest, to be quite honest with you, and he's never really been a big Disney fan. But Universal, I think, is something he would really enjoy, even at 16, I think, too. And Bobby says here that they're removing the Tom Sawyer Island. I did see that to make the Cars Island. And fantastic.
They've actually officially started the demolition of that already. So they've already shut it down and they're tearing it apart right now.
Okay. And then Eric Thurman says Mario Land is amazing. Yeah, it looks amazing. I'd love to go check that out. And Frostbite's a little jealous because they don't have the Australian Disneyland, Disney World.
The closest one is they'd have to go to Japan, Disney Tokyo.
that'd probably be freaking awesome.
Disney Tokyo is much different than the ones over here for sure.
So let's just kind of run down this list. This was most everything big that got announced. Anybody in the chat, if you're excited for any of any wait a minute. I just saw a message that just popped up. Yes, a punk with toys stopping by to impart some question for us. Matthew, do you know karate? And the answer is
I've been studying it for 25 years now.
That's right.
Along with jiu-jitsu and judo. and all of the other ones that smash fake ninjas into the ground.
Do not mess with this man. And right now, he bears a strong resemblance to Johnny Lawrence, and he will kick your ass, verbally and physically. All right, so let's hit it up. Moana 2. I love the first one. I thought it was a good movie. It's fun. There's some stuff in it, whatever. But I did think overall it was a good movie. Do we need another one? This is gonna be.
Do you know the story behind this one?
No. So inform me quickly.
So real quick, this was supposed to be a television series put on D+, and it was
live action.
No. Animated. It was supposed to be a television series, lots of different episodes, 25-minute episodes or whatever, and they were going to put it on Disney+. And then they said, let's just all throw it together and make a movie and condense the storyline a little bit. And so they rejiggered it to make a movie instead, because they needed something to come out, because they have been losing so much in their animation department. They've been failing miserably until Inside Out 2 came out. It's the only success that they've had on their animated side in 4 years.
Yes. Oh, for sure. And that has been a success. It is a bona fide Inside Out 2, but you're right. Most, everything animated has been brutal. And that's why when we see some of the things that are on this list, you'll understand why they're on this list. And so we've got obviously the live action Snow White with Rachel Zegler, which looks horrible.
The trailer just dropped, and the reactions have not been good.
No.
The downvotes and the fact that Peter Dinklage screwed a whole bunch of people out of their jobs, and so they had to change that. And then people backlashed against that, so they had to change it again. And so they're kind of manipulating things behind the scenes, CGI wise, and all that stuff. So this movie is a freaking mess. It cost them a fortune to make, and it will bomb at the box office. There's no way that this is going to do well.
You are absolutely correct, and they're going to spend a lot of money promoting it too. I feel like they will feel like they must do that.
Well, at least they got Rachel Zellweger to shut up for a year now, because once they put the clamp down on her and they said, we're postponing the release of your movie because of your comments and other things that are happening, and they got her to be quiet and not say anything, and they're hoping that people forgot. I don't think enough people forgot to go see this movie and make it successful.
No, and I think sometimes it's a Streisand effect. The word of mouth will get shared, and then people will start to look up those videos. People that maybe don't know, they'll start to be reminded, or they'll see those videos, they'll see those clips of her, and I think ultimately, that a lot of people are really going to pass on this. I think people are really tired of the live action remakes, from Disney. They have not been very good at all. And I will say that,
but they have been making money for Disney for the most part.
The Lion King one, made money. I mean, and Jon Favreau did that one, but I think ultimately, this movie's not going to do well. It's just not going to do well. And
in today's climate, when people are not going to movies unless they really want to go to the movies, and when they do, they go. I mean, you can look at Deadpool, you can look at Inside Out, you can look at Despicable Me 4. People are going to see those movies. So if you put out a product that people want, they're going to go see it.
It's and I also think too, what's her name playing the Queen?
Gal Gadot.
Gal Gadot. There's no way in the world you can tell me that Gal Gadot is going to look at Rachel Zegler and want to be as beautiful as she is. Gal Gadot is a smoke show, buddy. I'm sorry.
It
mirror my ass.
It really doesn't make sense that they would pick someone of less aesthetic beauty than Gal to be Snow White, because that's kind of misses the whole point. And yes, Bobby, not to get too deep in it, but yes, there are a lot of people because of that issue that are probably not going to go with that. That's fully understandable. It is. And Punk just he wants some more songs so his daughter can keep singing some more at the dinner table. A live action Lilo and Stitch, whatever. I'm not. Whatever. I don't know how that works in live action, but whatever.
Here's a big one: Incredibles 3. Now the first
who's behind it? Who's making it?
It is Pixar.
No, I understand it's Pixar, but who's behind it? Who's the writer, director, producers?
What do we have here right now? Brad Bird, longtime
Okay.
writer, director of the series.
Yep.
Other than that, I don't have any info on here. So
Okay.
who else have we seen that's added to this film?
Yeah. So, I mean, Brad did an incredible job with the first one.
Absolutely.
He did an adequate job with the second one. So I don't know if they have another good story to tell or not. If they do, it'll be great. If they tell that family story and continue the family story, make it the Fantastic Four.
Yes.
If they're telling the Fantastic Four story with this group of people, I think they could do very well. But think about the first villain. Who was the first villain that they had in the Incredibles movie? Do you remember?
It wasn't JB Smoove, was it?
Well, it was Jason Lee, right? But
but what was that character's name? I remember. That's right, Syndrome. That's right.
What was his line? What was his motive? What did he want to do?
Jesus. You're gonna
his whole point.
I can't remember.
His whole point to make everybody
say that again. What was that again?
What's that?
You cut out just a little bit on my end.
Sorry. I'm just going into it now. Can you hear me okay?
I can, absolutely. Okay. Just cut out just for that moment, just for that.
His whole point was to make everyone special so no one is special. That's
right. Okay. Yeah, I remember that now, especially considering, with the powers and everything. So
yes.
Yeah. And I mean, with that message, I know where that could be taken, obviously. But I think you're right. I think sticking with the family theme is the strongest way to go with that. And that would be interesting, Clint. I don't know how many people would want to see that, but base it on an episode of Punk's Pit, maybe. But yeah, I think the family part of it in particular is I think what most Disney people want. That's what they want. They want family movies that they can take their kids to. So you're right. If they stick with that, with the family and it's written well, then it'll probably do gangbusters. That's one of those ones we could see.
Brad Bird tends to write good stuff. So there's some potential there for him to continue that. Now, Toy Story 5, on the other hand, considering what they did with Toy Story 4 and ruined the entire character arc of Woody at all, destroyed it, shattered it to pieces. The entire premise of Toy Story was ruined in that movie. And now you're going to bring this one back. Is Tim Allen coming back, or is he still canceled because he doesn't believe the same way as most of the people in Hollywood?
That's going to be interesting because his face is front and center on this particular, trailer teaser for. Well, on
I mean, he's the only toy left, right?
Yes, yeah, exactly. So, I don't know. That's interesting. I mean, I don't know that do we need another Toy Story movie? I mean, really?
The first three Toy Story movies. The first three Toy Story movies were perfect. They ended perfectly, and then it just goes away. The fourth one,
right,
made somewhat of a sense, but it ruined the entire character arc for Woody, in my opinion. So I'm kind of done with that one. I don't know that I care about this one, and they're gonna have to work real hard to make me think I want to care about it.
No, I just don't. I don't know, man. I mean, the name has cachet, but will it really do that well? I mean, we'll see. I mean, obviously, Frozen 3, you're going to have people show up in droves to see Frozen 3. That's just going to happen. It is just one of those franchises, and I don't like that Leslie Headland, Harvey Weinstein's former personal assistant, used that as part of her Acolyte, as writing the Acolyte using Frozen. I thought it was very odd, but I couldn't help but bring that up. Nonetheless, Frozen 3, it's going to make some money. Zootopia 2, Zootopia was okay. I take it or leave it. It didn't do a lot for me.
I like Zootopia. I thought it was pretty good. I'm interested in seeing what they want to do or where they want to go with Zootopia 2.
Right.
Are they going to continue focus on the bunny cop thing? I don't know. Or I would really rather see the fox and what he's up to. But I did like that movie. I thought it was pretty good.
I mean, there's moments in it. If I went back and watched it again, I'd probably maybe have a better opinion of it. I remember watching it probably twice with my son, and maybe I wasn't fully paying attention during both of those. You know how that goes. I did want to say hi to War Chest, full
What's
of
up?
toys, is here, and also Mr. Wonderful, the one and only Paul Orndorff. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh yeah, well he had a troll in his chat tonight. I don't know. He had
really?
a troll in his chat that was commenting on the WWE's WWF's Mr. Wonderful, and thinking that he was him, or I don't know what was going on. But there was a troll in there. They had to time out for a little bit.
I get it. I totally get it. I do love the handle though. Mr. Wonderful is freaking awesome. And so yeah. Then we get to some Star Wars stuff. And curiously, there's one thing completely left out of this. Yep. All right. But we get the Skeleton Crew. Now, the Skeleton Crew is a kid's show. Think Goonies, adventure, with an adult. Kind of weird. But with an adult, it's Jude Law. You get a kid cast. I will say, it does look fun. It's directed specifically for children.
Yeah.
Okay. No doubt about it. This is also during the New Republic era. So this is years after Return of the Jedi, as it says right here. And these kids kind of go on an adventure, and they have a Force user with them who is Jude Law's character. It does look fun. I would tell you to go watch the trailer if you haven't seen it. And
here's my problem.
Okay.
People are saying they're taking George out of context. They're saying Star Wars is a kid's property.
I know exactly what you're saying.
And that's not what George said. He said that kids will respond to this because it's a morality tale of good versus evil, which Hollywood doesn't know what that is, and they've wandered into this gray area, and they want to promote the gray Jedi and all this other nonsense. That's not what George was telling. That's not the story he was telling. He was saying this is a morality tale of good and evil that children can relate to and will respond to. Right. But it wasn't for children. It was for everyone.
For everyone, absolutely.
And everyone can find a piece of their childhood in it, and the childhood innocence and the struggle between good and evil. And that's it. Good and evil is black and white in this world, and it should always be. But Disney has tried to blur those lines enough that it doesn't want to show that. And that's the frustrating part when they come out with all these kids programming, which, there was the droids and Ewoks thing. There was all these other kids property things, and that's different. And this could fall into that category. But to say that Star Wars is a children's brand is wildly inaccurate.
Yeah, no, it is inaccurate. I think when you how many quotes in interviews over God knows how many years did Lucas have? Are there times where he referred to it as such? Yes, but that probably you have to look at context, right? With the question, you have to look at context with everything he said with it surrounding that. A lot of people also say, "Oh, it's your wizards and light swords and blah blah blah," But you're right with the good and evil. It has been blurred recently. We did see actors for the Acolyte completely talk, over and over mention how there's no good or any bad, right? Well, it's your own just personal point of view and where you come from and how you feel and all that stuff. But yes, at the end of the day, it is about good and evil. It is black and white. There's a good side, there is a bad side. I think bottom line is that with this show, with the Skeleton Crew, I feel like for adults, it may come across definitely for kids. It will come across as for kids. Will adults be able to get something out of this? I would say so if you are a Star Wars fan. But I do believe this is definitely going to be really marketed towards children. It's a kid's adventure. Now, did adults go see the Goonies years ago? Absolutely. And it's a classic and people revere that film. But I remember as a 10-year-old kid or whatever when it came out, I was in love with that movie and movies like that, The Last Starfighter or
Toy Soldiers. Did you ever
Toy
see Toy
Soldier?
Soldiers?
Yes, Toy Soldiers. Absolutely. All that stuff. Like there's so many more that we could
Red
name.
Dawn.
Red Dawn, but just, off the top of my head, but as a kid and having kids or kids of an age. And so they're really going to try to appeal to kids and hopefully steer it in that direction and not get too weird with any messaging and all that.
This is going to be probably the biggest bomb that they've ever. I mean, another big bomb.
Holy
I can't
crap.
imagine this being good because the person who did this didn't know who Mephisto was, didn't know anything about Marvel, anything, and now they're doing this story. So they're a soap opera writer, and that's what they know. So this is going to be a terribly written soap opera.
Yeah.
I have no faith in this because it's changed names 16 times.
It has, and this show somehow came about just because of a song in the WandaVision show. The little quirky little song, and found out she's the one kind of controlling, people and this and that. Not everyone, obviously, as we found, but
how do you make a TV show about a truly evil person, right? How do you make them an anti-hero? How do you tell their story without diving into how evil they are? Because they were always evil in the comic books, and in every interpretation, this character has been truly evil. And now you're trying to marginalize that evilness. Again, you're blurring those lines. It's black and white. And most of the stuff. And while there's gray area in the Marvel universe, this is not a gray character.
Well, and the bottom line is it's not going to portray her. They have decided to take their own path with this character. In certain ways, this trailer looks like a horror film. It looks like a comedy. It looks like a drama. It's a whole
what it is?
Bag of crap.
It's
really.
The Acolyte for Marvel.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. It is Marvel's Acolyte. Now look, I love me some Aubrey Plaza. And by the way, War Chest says too, sucks too. She's a cool actress, and this show's gonna bomb hard. With Catherine Hahn, I do like her as well. I think this is definitely going to. Are people going to tune in episode 1? Yes, they probably will.
Yeah.
And then from there, we'll see the true tale of the tape.
You know what I think is fascinating is that Marvel and Sony and some of these other companies, they have hired really good talent and given them shit directors and shit writers. And so the product bombs, and there's nothing that the actor can do about it. And it's not the actor's fault. So I don't blame the actor most of the time, unless there's a consistency of behavior. But so when the actor's good, they're good, and they're put in a bad situation. And this is going to be another one of those situations because they're hiring, we'll get to it in a second with Borderlands, I'm sure. But, you put talented people in shitty situations, and they're going to come up looking bad, and then they're going to get blamed for that.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And I think the worst offenders are the ones who go outside when they're doing interviews. They go outside of just the film and their performance, and we see them kind of regurgitating those same buzzwords and phrases in every interview and every red carpet and everything. This I don't think is the case with this show, Agatha, all along. But it's going to be an episode 1. Premieres on September 18th, first 2 episodes, and we're really going to see after episode 1, maybe 2, how many people come back for it. And
well, we have seen the traditional drop off for these shows is massive. So the first episode, people come in and watch it because they're curious. I think less people are going to be doing that, and then the drop off is still going to be massive.
That's right.
I saw something in there. Look at that. Look at that. He's one of my favorite Marvel characters.
Yep.
I love Moon Knight. I hate that TV show with a passion. I do like the Werewolf by Night, and I wish that they had put Werewolf by Night in the Moon Knight show, which they should have. I wish they would put Blade, Werewolf by Night, and Moon Knight in a project together, because they are the Midnight Suns, right? They are Marvel Knights. They are, the right way to go with that.
There you go.
Love me some Moon Knight.
Right. Hang on. Let's hang on. No, I'm gonna have to. There we go. At the very least, there we go. Lovely. Yeah, and I know War Chest awesome. Holds Moon Knight near and dear to his heart. 3-star draw says Moon Knight wasn't that bad. I have to extremely disagree.
You know what? If the show had been about Moon Knight, I would have been happy.
Yes.
But it wasn't about Moon Knight. It was about his female superhero partner who became a different character because they gender swapped her. And they went into some of the psychology, but not all of the psychologies. They missed a couple personalities that he's got. I thought the first couple episodes were really interesting, and then it dropped right off a cliff when they took the story away from Mark Spector.
Yes, and it definitely fell off the rails, especially at the end. Now, I did talk to a couple people at my bar that actually really liked it, and they weren't familiar with the character. Yeah. So I mean, it is there's not everybody.
There is perspective, and so 3-star. I will say yes, they are all bait and switch. And that's what we fear from every time they come out with a property and they name it one thing. What's it really about? Doctor Strange 2 Moms was not about Doctor Strange,
Yes, no, absolutely right. That's a bait and switch as well. A lot of times these characters become a passenger in their own movie. Shang-Chi was another one that he became a passenger in his own movie. Yeah. We've seen it. And with these shows too, Hawkeye, passenger in his own show. Loki was a passenger in his own show.
I liked that a little bit more until the Kingpin stuff, but yeah, no, it was a vehicle to hit. That whole purpose of that Hawkeye show was to
promote,
to get Kate Bishop into that role, and I get that, and that's comic book, that's what it is, and I thought it was better written than most of the other Disney Marvel shows.
And Eric Thurman's still pissed at Doctor Strange and War Chest like that Daredevil trailer, and we'll get to that too. Real quick, we'll pass Fantastic Four. We'll see. I don't like the Pedro Pascal.
He does not fit. He is not smart enough to. I mean, as a human being, he's not smart enough to play Reed Richards.
And look, man, like he's done a couple things. The Last of Us, was fine. I still think he wasn't quite cast right for that role, but I think it was okay. But he's the Hollywood
go-to guy right now. He checks boxes.
Yes, he's the Hollywood darling right now on the male side, and so he is what he is. And he's getting a lot of roles. So we will see. We will see. There has not been, other than the original Roger Corman Fantastic Four being the best, probably the best representation.
Have you seen it?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I actually like that. The Doom portrayal, everybody in that movie I thought did a good job for what they had.
And so but then we get to Daredevil Born Again.
Again.
And yes, he is born.
It's not Born Again, it's Born Again because they already told the Born Again storyline in season 3 of Daredevil.
Yes. I do love the fact that they're bringing most everybody back. I like the fact that we're going to get some more Punisher with John Bernthal.
So I agree with some people that said they should not have shown that. That should have been an episode reveal. That shouldn't have been in a trailer. That they were bringing John Bernthal back.
I do agree with you there. It does take some of that.
If you look deep enough, you would have known that he was on set. They were talking. They had stuff like that. You could have seen that he was going to be in it. But to show him in the trailer, I thought it was like, okay, the regular audience who doesn't know, it would be a good surprise for them. Did they bring Foggy back? I thought I saw him, but I wasn't sure if Foggy was in there.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Because I saw Karen. Obviously, Karen's in it.
Yes, it's right here, actually, right in the middle. You'll see pretty much most of your cast. And Wilson Bethel is Bullseye.
Yeah, and so for the fact that when they started this project, they said they weren't bringing any of those people back. They heard what everybody said, and then they did bring them back. But who are the people writing this? And that's where we come into place. If Goddard isn't involved with writing it, then it's not going to be as good as that original Daredevil show, because that original first 2 seasons are the best thing that Disney Marvel has ever done, in my opinion. The 3rd season wasn't as good, but the first 2 seasons of Daredevil were some of the best Disney Marvel's ever done.
A lot of people feel that way, and agree with you. I did want to catch this one real quick about Eric Thurman said who would be a good Reed Richards. I thought Krasinski would have been a good Reed Richards, and they had it, and they did a disservice to everyone by absolutely turning him into spaghetti. And in the Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness,
which was worse than what Thanos did, because while Thanos turned people to bubbles and spaghetti, they all came back to life.
Right.
Scarlet Witch, she eliminated. She's evil. She is not a good person. She should not have been touted as a hero of any kind, no matter what circumstance she was ever put under, because she still did the evil deeds. And that goes back to Batman, the Cape Crusader, with Barbara Gordon as an attorney at law who is saying that my person shouldn't be prosecuted because they had a boss. Well, they still committed the crime.
Yeah, that's
so they need to pay for their crime.
I forgot about that.
Even if they flip on their boss and they provide them things like that, they could get special dispensation about some things, but they still need to pay for their crime.
Yeah. It's God. So I liked Krasinski. I know a lot of the fans have been wanting that forever, and then then they really toyed with people with that. And then once they saw what happened with him, that that was bullshit. And and some writer was sitting there, just salivating over the fact that they were gonna take your mythos and ruin it, like
Taika Waititi. Not only, they did him dirty in so many ways. Not only did they kill him, but they did him dirty because Reed Richards is the smartest person in the Marvel universe, the smartest being in the Marvel universe, and they made him out to be a dumb shit.
Right. It's like I said, we'll have to see. We'll have to see. The Fantastic Four looks like a retro 60s kind of thing, alternate kind of universe.
I've heard some people bitching about the costumes, and I'm like, look, these are their space outfits. They're going up to space in these things. It's not their outfits per se. It's what they're wearing into space. And people are bitching about this, that, and the other. There's going to be CGI. There's going to be alterations. There are going to be different things done. So we don't know what it's going to finally look like yet. Somebody else had some costume reveals that I'm like, wait. They're going to CGI some of this stuff. It's not going to look that bad. Right. It may, and then we can shit on them for that. But it doesn't look that bad if you can modify it.
No, and listen, with it being that 60s kind of theme, I think we're going to get that original look, maybe a little alteration, but we'll see. If they can pull a good film out and actually entertain the people who've been wanting this for a long time, also bring mutants in and everything, then we'll see how that goes.
And think about what they're learning with the Deadpool Wolverine movie, and Deadpool jokes about it. It only took 25 years to get him in the costume, and everybody's laughing at it. But it's like, yeah, no shit, we wanted to see the costumes. You made a joke about it in the first X-Men movie. What'd you expect? Yellow spandex? And I'm like,
right.
Yeah, we did actually.
Yeah. Look, I'm not saying fans know everything, and they're not the end all be all, because people are very passionate. However, in this case, with as many misses as they've had with this property, they need to hit on this property. And if they want to hit on it and get people on their side, they'll probably follow some of those tenets of what makes that property.
Disney is kind of screwed right now because this next Falcon movie is going to be terrible. People aren't going to go see it. It's not going to save anything. So basically, they have to get through the next couple of movies to hopefully, if they have actually make some of those changes that Christopher Gore was talking about, they can't really be implemented until 2025, 2026, or later production things. So hopefully this Fantastic Four movie will be put on the right track. But from what they've shown so far, and Pedro Pascal, the girl who's playing Sue Storm, I'm like, yeah, good. All right. You got a good suit.
Yeah. No, it everything looks fine except Pedro Pascal, and we'll just have to see. We'll just have to see how they're able to direct him.
And I'm not saying he can't act. I'm saying he can act,
No,
but
no, yeah.
But with the script and stuff like that, I just don't think that he can play the smartest man in the Marvel universe.
Yeah, no, we're just gonna have to see it, and and you'll know day one or that weekend, you'll know where this movie is headed box office wise.
Yeah.
Just kind of what were we gonna say? I was gonna kind of go ahead and slide down.
Yeah, going to Avatar. We're gonna get on to Avatar. For me, I have never liked any of the Avatar movies because the first one was, Smurfs and Fern Gully. I mean, it just, it's never been engaging to me. The story has not been good to me. People seem to like it more than I do.
It's amazing how much money it makes.
And to me, I really don't understand it because to me, James Cameron has not been himself in the last 15 to 20 years. He hasn't made the same quality of movies that he once did. He's attached his name to a whole bunch of garbage. And when we get to Alien Romulus, we'll talk more about it. Yep. But I really don't understand where he's trying to go with all this stuff. It's his manifesto. And when people get self-indulgent, get to their manifesto, it's no good.
That's kind of what I was going to say. It's that he's really just kind of really been wrapped up in this world. And this is project. I mean, this as someone who he is, as far as making films, but in particular, having these take so long. And then, to want to knock out as many as he's wanting to do. I mean, these are years of his career that he's devoting to this particular project.
Now, do you know about Kevin Costner's Horizon movies that he's done?
I do.
Okay. So Kevin Costner, he made these 4-hour epic movies. He's made 2 of them so far. He's got 6 planned or something like that to get through his storyline. And they're like 3 or 4-hour movies. And the first one came out and it bombed and it's going to streaming. And the second one was already done. So they're going to have to release that in the theaters. And there's like a 3-month gap between when the first one and the second part is released because he filmed them together.
Right.
And he's trying to usurp his, Yellowstone storyline because he wants to be more invested and have more money from the profits from it. So he did his own thing, created this thing. And while people say it's good, most people aren't going to go see it because it's a 4-hour Kevin Costner movie. And for the most part, there's not a Kevin Costner movie that I like to watch on a regular basis. 1, because they're all 3.5 hours. And 2, they may be historically accurate or whatever, but they're boring. There's a lot of dead space in there. So Kevin Costner has a passion for a lot of things, and I appreciate some of the stuff he's done. But sometimes it just doesn't work out. And I think this is one of those things that's just like that. This is a James Cameron version of what Kevin's doing with Horizon right now. And I don't get it. I never have.
The first one, I remember buying it on Blu-ray because I was like, man, this is the first Blu-ray. I had a PS3 and I was like, oh, this is going to look awesome on my new flat screen TV. And I think that was about it. It was like, that's the only reason I really even wanted it. Of course, it was a phenomenon and a big event, but since that first one, no. I've as a matter of fact, I've probably seen that first one again maybe one time all the way through. The second one I didn't care about. The third one I don't care about. Will it make $1 billion again at the theater? I don't know. Somebody was buying tons of tickets for people and just handing them out. How that second one made over $1 billion, I really don't know. Ronnie Trickshot said the strange tail docking stuff in Avatar has always put me off. Yeah, it's interesting to say the least.
If you dive into that too deep, it gets really weird. I will say that my favorite Avatar thing of all time is the ride at Disney. It is the best ride at Disney. Is the flight when you get to fly on one of those things.
Okay.
At Disney, it's one of their best rides. I think it is their best ride. That I've ever been on in any of their parks. The way that the technology that they used to do it, the way that they did it was really well done. But that's the that's the only Avatar thing that I really appreciate.
And the last thing I want to say on it really is that 3-Star Draw said that Fern Gully did it better. He said Matt said it. Fern Gully did it better, and you said that before, and yes, I agree with you. So we get Freaky Friday 2 is now Freakier Friday. Nobody cares.
Nope.
Tron Ares.
So
Okay, we'll see.
I'm curious what they're wanting to do with this, but they're talking about turning it on its head. I love Tron. I really liked Tron Legacy, right? I even liked Tron Uprising, the animated show that they did, right? I'm invested in this world. I like this property. I wanted them to continue it, and I wanted to see what was going to happen when this ISO gets out in the real world and stuff. So I'm really curious what they want to do with this. I'm just worried about the Disneyfication of it all and their current people that are working on these things and what they're going to want to do with it.
I'm with you.
I'm cautiously optimistic that this might have some interesting things in it.
I'm with you. I just feel like I don't know that there's a real desire for Tron stuff. And it has a good cast. It actually has a really good cast.
Yeah.
But is there the desire for it? Man, I don't know, man. Like we'll see. Tron is one of those things, it either has some hardcore fans or to the general public, they probably don't give a damn.
Yeah.
Monster Jam 2, don't know what that is. Win or Lose is just kind of
Eric,
animated.
Real quick,
yeah.
You brought up Field of Dreams. It's a great movie. I just don't want to watch it all the time. I mean, I'm not saying he doesn't make good movies. I'm just saying I don't like to watch them all the time.
I think,
and I know that you've mentioned this before that you know Kevin a little bit, and I'm not saying he's a bad guy. I'm not saying any of that stuff. I'm just saying that his movies are long and drawn out, and they're not for everybody, and they don't have a high rewatchability for me anyway.
Yeah, no, and I get that. I mean, but he, his stuff usually does well, but yes, the Horizon movie that just recently come out, it did not, and so there's been a stop on putting out that second one. And so we'll kind of have to see. There's kind of some other stuff in here I'm not really familiar with. Then we get, Mufasa the Lion King. It's like, oh my gosh, again, we get
an origin story.
Action.
Go back to the origin story and screw it all up again.
Yep.
Thank you.
Then we get Ironheart, and I know for some of y'all in the chat, you know who I thought Ironheart. I agree with you. I thought it was scrapped too. It's been somewhat filmed. It's been like just kind of put on the back burner. We haven't heard anything about it, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, they talk about Ironheart. I think it's going to be an absolute disaster. And then we get Andor season 2, which I love Andor. I recommend Andor. I think
hope it'll be good.
And it's 12 episodes, the last season, and it will span about a 3-year period of time. And so it's one of, I do like this time period in Star Wars. I do recommend Andor. I think it's a great series. Mandalorian and Grogu also got a little quick teaser trailer. Most of the footage was kind of cut with season 1, season 2 scenes, but then they showed Zeb from Star Wars Rebels who piloting the Razor Crest. So somehow the Razor Crest got put back together. So that was shown as well. Again, we'll see.
Was it the Razor Crest or the Ghost?
The Razor Crest. Now Zeb flew the Ghost, but actually it was the Razor Crest that he was in the cockpit of.
Interesting. No, I haven't seen that. I think that's interesting. If they get another ship of the same model and make it the Razor Crest 2 or whatever.
Yeah, somehow it's either got put back together or he's bought a new.
I have a question. Did you ever watch the roundtable behind the scenes discussion on Mandalorian season 1?
Very possibly.
Okay. So I encourage you, if it still exists on their servers, if it's still there, go back and watch it and tell me what you think of Kathleen Kennedy in those scenes. Because what I got from it was she refused to let people talk without her inserting her opinion point on it. She cut off the I can't think of his name, but the black director. He started talking and he she cut him off right away, jumped in and tried to take credit for what he was doing. And she tried to take credit for what everybody was doing. And you saw Jon Favreau and a couple other people like just shut down, right? And while she was there at the round table, she had nothing to do with the season, nothing to do with it, other than she was the head of Lucasfilm.
Yeah, that's
so
correct.
if she had let those people talk, they could have had a good conversation about it all. But with her being there, it disrupted everything. And then she's trying to take credit for it all. Like, this is my success. And so I'm like, hey, let's hope Moana 2 does really good, or this Skeleton Crew thing does really good, so Kathleen Kennedy can just walk away, because she said she wants to retire on a win. Take that as a win and go away.
Yeah, that's what you would think. But obviously she just does not have that ability to do that. Yeah, it's and I do actually recall that. And if I didn't watch the whole thing, I definitely probably had watched clips of that. And I do remember that specifically about her basically kind of taking over the conversation. Look, Star Wars fans can't wait till she's gone. But, you know, sometimes in life, you want the replacement and then you get the replacement and you realize that you don't want the replacement either.
Yeah.
And
no, it happens a lot.
Very well happen once she decides to leave. And so yeah, and then we saw Percy Jackson 2 was kind of the last thing I had on that list. Season 2. Season 2.
Now, I mean, they made a lot of changes and I appreciated the first season of it. I think I'm hopeful for the second season, because, you know, they changed a lot of things, whatever, but the story is still unfolding relatively well. So we'll see where that plays out. I know we're going to watch it at my house because my wife loves that series. And
that's awesome.
And I like the movies, the series.
I like the movies too, actually.
The series has a lot of good elements to it. So, you know, I'm curious. I want to see where they take it.
So there was a lot of reveals and stuff for the theme parks. We're not going to get into that. We kind of want to switch gears here as well, and kind of just very quickly cover this Borderlands fiasco. So for those that played those games, go ahead.
I was just going to say, as I told you in the text message, I could not care less about this. I didn't play the game. I have no connection with this. The movie trailer looked terrible. I was like, there's nothing here for me. So I got nothing to say on any of this.
Well, and I'm not going to say a lot other than the fact that it has only made about $16 million. It is obviously going to lose quite a bit of money. I was hoping that we would be able to see, like, you know, and I could obviously look up a budget, but it's really don't need to do that. You know, ultimately this has been an absolute disaster. They've completely miscast this. If you were a fan of the games, I know 3-Star Draw was a fan of Borderlands 1, as many people did. The game has sold like 80 million copies.
Right.
You know, at the very least, or maybe between all 3 games and
stuff. No, well, whatever. So from what I heard, the first game is pretty good, and then every game after that has been a declining slope.
Yes, kind of gone downhill. But yes, when you cast, so basically you miscast it by casting geriatric actors and Kevin Hart. Well, as people that are playing someone there that should be in their 20s. Okay. And anytime that's done, can you make that work? I guess with a property like this, no, it doesn't hold water. And I did not go see it. I have no plans to see it. I don't think anybody else here would, you know, really wants to go see it. I don't blame you.
Curiosity. Did you watch the Rock's Jumanji movies?
I did.
Okay. So I thought the second Rock Jumanji movie was the best acting that I've ever seen Kevin Hart do.
I thought he was actually really good in that too. I agree.
I mean, I really enjoyed those movies, but to put him in this movie, I mean, again, I don't know how it fits. I don't know what the comedic value of this video game is, but they're trying to cast comedic actors and make this lighthearted, but an intense drama, action, story. They're trying to mix so many genres in here. I think that's maybe where it got lost. But also when you cast actors in their 50s and 70s that are supposed to be in their 20s and 30s doesn't work real well.
No, Kate Blanchett's playing the main character, and yeah, she's what, in her mid-50s. She's supposed to be playing a 20-year-old. You have Jamie Lee Curtis as well, totally miscast. Kevin Hart is miscast as that particular character from the game, and so yeah, no, I didn't want to spend a lot of time on it. I know 3-star draw. He said he saw a story that this movie is on pace to set the record for biggest loss on a movie to date. Yeah. I can believe that. Now, I don't know the budget off the top of my head, but this is brutal, and nobody wanted this.
No.
Nobody wanted this. This is
nobody was asking for it. Nobody cared about it.
Nope.
Nobody. I mean, if they had made 3 successful video games, then we would have a story, right? If we're on Tomb Raider 3 and we're making a Tomb Raider movie, okay, great, because those were tremendous games. You get in here and you get 1 good game and 2 mediocre to poor games, and you want to make a movie franchise out of that. Now, video game franchise movies tend to do poorly anyway.
That's correct. It's rare, very rare. Yes. And so, yeah, no one was asking for this. Meanwhile, the CEO of the company who made the games has been on Twitter and is absolutely blowing his top. Been just cussing at people and and writes.
And then he says he doesn't have time. He writes a 16-paragraph diatribe on why he doesn't like you, and then he says, "I don't have time for this," and walks away because he doesn't have an answer.
No, he doesn't, and he's notoriously Randy Pitchford is notoriously an asshole, and I've known that for many years. Famously left a thumb drive. This was a big story in like 2019. Famously left a thumb drive with porn and company secrets from Gearbox God, where did he leave it at?
In the Lucasfilm parking lot where Mike Zero picked it up and started making videos.
That's how Mike Zero started, Mike. Golly, you nailed it. But yeah, he left it somewhere, and then it came, oh my God. Anyway, so enough about Borderlands. Real quick, speaking of which, box office, Deadpool Wolverine, worldwide box office is over $1 billion.
Hey,
and
you know what?
$34 million.
I am ecstatic to be wrong about this one. Right?
We talked about it.
I was wrong about it. I underestimated the desire for somebody to go out to the theater to watch a mediocre movie. Right? I knew this was going to have a lot of problems, but a lot of people were going to go for it because Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman are so charismatic and they work so well together. I underestimated that charisma factor and the desire, the fact that no other movie has got out the general audiences to come see stuff since Inside Out 2, right? Yeah. But in the last several years, people haven't, until Spider-Man No Way Home, people really haven't come out in these kind of numbers to see a movie. And so I'm ecstatic that it happened, but I will go back to my buddy Az, Heels versus Babyface, and he said that he did a double feature. And he went to go see this movie, and then he saw Spider-Man 2. And he was blown away because Spider-Man 2 is probably, it's one of the top 3 greatest superhero movies that have ever been made. And I agree with Nerdrotic saying that Superman 1978 is probably the best. And then we can debate on the ones in between. But Spider-Man 2 is definitely in the top 3 of greatest superhero movies ever made. And to compare it to Deadpool Wolverine is like, nah, not so much. You get somebody like Mahler who really disliked the disrespect that it did. You have people like Az who love the camaraderie, the charismatic engagement, and even some of the storytelling. And then you've got Gary, who's kind of in between, and I fit that kind of Gary thing. I'm in between. I'm like, I love this. I hate the TVA. I love this story. I hate that this is so retarded here, and they go back and forth. But overall, it's a good movie. It's worth watching. And I appreciate that people are seeing it multiple times. And I wouldn't mind seeing it again, but I probably won't get a chance to till it comes on streaming or I buy it on disc because I know I'm going to buy it on disc. It's the 3rd best Deadpool movie, but I'm happy for its success. Yeah, and I love some of the comedic beats in it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you. And yeah, Spider-Man 2 is probably up there with the top 3 of, best of all time. That's a great movie. Still holds up today. Um and so yeah, I'm glad this movie made what it made. I'm not taking a victory lap about, it's making $1 billion or whatever. It's just it felt like the time was right. And if we're going to
Yeah.
have one, because there's only going to be a couple of those this year, $1 billion makers, and that was one of them. And 3-Star Draw says, which Spider-Man 2? We're obviously
The
talking
only
about
Spider-Man 2, because there's
yes,
an
the
Amazing
only
Spider-Man 2. An
yeah,
Amazing Spider-Man 2 is not Spider-Man 2.
yes. Tobey Maguire, Spider-Man
Toby,
2.
Toby,
Great,
Doc
great,
Ock,
great
baby.
movie. So look, we're gonna spend a few minutes talking about the finale of House of the Dragon, and then I want to spend Cobra Kai, really, the meat of it here. So your thoughts on House of the Dragon as far as how the season wrapped up? What did you think about it? And for anybody maybe that was watching it, just in the comments, just kind of throw in there what you think.
House of the Dragon, man. I really liked this show. The first season was great. The second season was so good, so good. We talked about this before we started live streaming, and I found out today a little bit more about it. I thought it was because of the writer's strike, what happened, but apparently there were some budget cuts, and they cut off 2 episodes, and that's why it ended the way that it did. I hated the ending of this season. I thought it was poorly done because of expectations. Like, this seems like a penultimate episode, not the finale, right? And if you follow the Game of Thrones thing, they had a penultimate episode where something major happened, and then you started dealing with the aftermath. Now, budgetary wise, they had to cut off 2 episodes, and so story wise, they had the writer's strike, and so the last episode was not written as well, was not put together as well, and then it was cut off before it could actually finish. So you didn't have 2 more episodes to wrap up the things that were happening there, i.e., the battle.
The main
For
biggest,
the Dance of Dragons is going to
right?
be at the beginning of the next season, and that's going to take away from the budget for that rest of the season. So I am not hopeful for the way season 3 is going to play out,
The
because they're going to
pacing
blow
is
their
going to be off.
pacing's going to be a problem. They're going to blow their wad at the beginning, and then it's all going to be aftermath after that. And I'm like, the season 3 is going to be dramatically hurt by these budget cuts and then the writer's strike that all happened around the same time. That being said, I still really like all of the character interactions in this for the most part. They did a lot to get into the children of the forest and the manipulation of Damon and how he's starting to change. And you get the army that's being built up by
The
Tywin
Lannister, yeah, the
Lannister.
Lannister army meeting with the Triarchy,
Right.
and getting that going, and a little. Look, I'm okay with it. It's the head of the Triarchy is a woman who, yeah, I was going to highlight that. I'm glad you did. Oh, real quick, I wanted to say hi to Todd C, by the way, stopping by, dropping a like. Speaking of which, drop a like. If you do get a chance, drop a like.
Like, share,
yep,
comment,
subscribe. Absolutely. Hit them all. Trifecta, baby. Hit the triple. All right, go ahead.
I just want to jump on this real quick. There were 2 more episodes to this season. Yeah, so the company came in, Warner Brothers came in and said, budgetary wise, you're doing 8 episodes this season. It was supposed to be 10 episodes. And so, yes, they cut off 2 episodes of the season, and it's really going to hurt next season. They said it was to save this money, but it's going to cost them even more to do it next season.
That's the thing, right? It just, to me, it's like, nope, it just decided to just put the axe to it. It wasn't the strike, had nothing to do with it. And for a show like this that's done a really good job with their CGI in particular this season and stuff, you just wonder maybe how that will affect some things moving forward. They'll have to alter some things.
Well, you got to think, because the battle of the Dance of Dragons is going to be the beginning of next season.
Right.
And if they blow their wad on that, then they're not going to have any money for any CGI for the rest of it. So we aren't going to see another freaking dragon for the rest of that season.
And they're talking about 4 seasons.
Oh, okay. I'm good with 4 seasons. If they're going to do 4 seasons, I'm good with that, because then they can actually wrap up all the storylines. But they are mixing and canoodling different storylines through here. You know, and we'll get to that if we want to. But
yeah, I mean, we don't have to go too crazy on it. You know, we see the pieces of the puzzle start to come again, you know, together, and we see the Lannister army, you know, meeting with the Triarchy. Obviously, that means that they get a very nice naval army now. With them, especially trying to break the blockade that's been set upon King's Landing by the Sea Snake. You know, it's a lot of people were disappointed with this episode, to be quite honest with you, because nothing really happened. But when people say nothing really happened,
that's not true.
I think they're mainly looking at it from an action standpoint. Yes. And I don't need action for me to enjoy a show. Right. We get to see old Larry get Aegon out of bed and get on the move, right? Get him out of King's Landing, because yes.
Now here's the question. Who do you think has Hightower imprisoned?
So yeah, we see a shot of Otto Hightower in a cage, and
was that Larry? Did Larry do that, or did somebody else?
Man, because not knowing the entire story, okay, knowing some of it but not all of it. Yeah, I don't know. Speculating on Otto Hightower, because you don't get to see a big shot of like where they're at or nothing. It just shows him in a cage from kind of up top, and he's being rolled along like it's a wagon or something like that. Could it be Larry? Yes, maybe bringing those pieces together.
To me, it makes the most sense, because he was manipulating Aegon from the beginning to become his master of whisperers, to get in his good graces. And he knew he had to get rid of Otto, because if he put some dumbass as his hand, like he did, a person who was way out of his depth, that he would still be able to come in and provide him information and guidance to his decision-making process. But now, with him being in the state that he's in, he can't use him the same way.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. But he's going to figure out how to use him. And also Larry, he appeals kind of to him in a way where he says, because Larry's a cripple as well, right? So he's appealing to him, to that side of him, trying to say, look, you still have better days ahead. You're not dead. Now you will be if you stay here, but you're not dead right now. And if I can get you out of here, at the very least, you can come back and you can rebuild after these people destroy each other. You can come back and be the rebuilder. I did like the line with Aegon where he's talking about, I'm burnt and I'm crippled, and he talks about his penis and how it burst into flames like a sausage on a spit.
Yep.
God. So he's like, and when I take a piss, it runs down my leg. And I was like, well, that's descriptive.
Well, I mean, it goes right back to Theon Greyjoy.
Right. I know. And when you think about what happened,
and the cutting of the sausage.
Oh, it's so, what a scene. And it's just a terrible thing, right? Every time I think about it, I just think to myself, good God, it's just awful.
Yeah, George is very descriptive in that nonsense.
Yeah, he was. But we also basically see the dragon seeds, who are the lowborn, the bastards that have claimed dragons now, and they're kind of showing, they're all of different places, they're coming from different places. Some of them are disrespectful and asshole-ish, and some of them know how to act in court and at the dinner table and all that kind of stuff. That was fun.
Did you happen to watch the behind the scenes for that episode?
No, I'm going to. I watched the behind the scenes for all the other ones, and I forgot to watch it when it was over. So I can't wait. Actually, I'll go watch it after tonight.
It's awesome. I'm gonna spoil this one part for you, but the oh gosh, what's his name? The jerk, the guy who has no respect for royalty. Olaf.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in the filming of the scene of the dinner table.
Okay.
When you film stuff, for as long as that scene takes, you have to eat the food that's on your plate.
Oh, wow.
Okay? And so usually there's spit buckets and stuff like that. Like, okay, we did the scene and I'm going to spit this out. I'm not actually going to eat this, whatever. Yeah. Okay. So the Valerian guy, the sea snake's son. Adam was eating berries in every scene. So he would just nibble on some berries. Okay. Well, Olaf was eating entire pheasants. Okay. So he ate 30 freaking pheasants in the filming of this scene. Okay. So he's clamming them down, he's asking for more. And, he's calling out, more birds, boy. Or, whatever.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And so every scene they had to reset and bring it back. And he had to devour these freaking birds. He ate 30 of them in that day. Now, granted, they're pheasants, so they're smaller, but still,
that's a lot of meat, dude.
He ate 30 of those for the filming of that one scene.
Wow. And look, some scenes can take hours. They can have 40 takes, right?
Yes.
You could have to reset everything and audio and camera and all that. Good God, that's amazing. Yeah, I've got to go back and watch that. That's fantastic. Clinton Jorgensen had a question for you real quick. He said, how do you have time to watch all this content, Matthew?
I sleep 5 hours a night and no more. And all the rest of the time, I'm working. I'm watching YouTube videos. I'm watching behind the scenes stuff. I'm watching documentaries. I'm reading research papers. I'm doing my thing, taking photographs of my toys. You
stay busy.
I sleep 5 hours a day.
Yeah, you stay busy. You stay active, and that's good because idle hands, right? Like that.
And I watch most videos on YouTube on 2x.
You know what? And people say you're a freak for that. I do a lot of 1.5. I do a lot of 1.5. Now there are some folks I just cannot do 1.5, depending on the accent or how fast they talk. But there's a lot of people who do content that maybe not as slow as I do, but yes, you can put on 1.5 and you can gather everything. But some people would call you a madman at 2x, dude. That is nuts. Real quick though, just for the next like 2 or 3 minutes, just gonna say, I mean, ultimately this episode is about moving the pieces. We see that Aemon is trying to get Helena to ride a dragon for battle, and Alicent really is against this, and she actually kind of gets Aemon back down, and then later on Helena tells him basically that she's had her dragon dreams, that she's seen all of it. She saw what happened. She saw that he burned Aegon, her husband, the king. She's seen it all. She sees what's going to happen. She sees his death. She's seen the White Walkers. She's seen everything, right? But she doesn't really know these dreams. Like while she's having them, she doesn't know how to tie them together exactly and what they mean. But this is the first time we've ever seen her actually say to someone, I've seen this and I know what it is. Because earlier in the season, she was knitting the funeral robe for her son that got beheaded, but she was doing it before anything ever happened. But she didn't know why she was knitting that, but it was going to have a need. And so she has a lot of these dreams, and maybe a lot of you guys don't know that, but she's kind of a seer. And she sees everything, and she kind of lives in kind of a waking dream state in a way.
She never knows what's real and what's not. She is never sure about what's real and what's not in her life.
And that's Aegon's wife. That's blonde hair. It's their brother and sister actually. But yes, it's the queen, that younger, girl, blonde hair, or light hair, in the show in King's Landing. Um, but really, we see Damon gets a vision. He has also shown the whites, and the White Walkers. He's shown the Night King. He's shown the comet. He's shown Daenerys Targaryen and the birthing of her 3 dragons in a vision in the werewood, because Alice Rivers, basically is like, do you want to see? And he sees. And
I mean, in that scene, we see a satyr or a children of the forest running towards the tree, and so we don't know if Damon's hallucinating or if they're actually there. There's a whole lot of questions we have with that, but Damon is getting the inside info from the werewood and the children of the forest, and he gets a brain dump about all the stuff that's going on.
Big brain dump.
I mean, and the brain dump earlier is what got him to bend the knee and acquiesce to his niece, his wife.
Yes. But that's exactly right. We also see that Damon ultimately pledges for Rhaenyra as she comes to visit him at Harrenhal, and to check up and say, hey, look, I've got to go find out what's going on, because he's not responding. So yes, he pledges in front of all the army that he's raised, pledges support for her. And then, after that, basically we get Alicent, who travels somehow to Dragonstone, and we get a repeat this time of a scene. We don't know how in the world these people are able to do this, but nonetheless, Alicent visits Rhaenyra at Dragonstone, and she's trying to call everything off. She asks her to run away with her and just disappear, and Rhaenyra basically tells her, sorry,
it's too late.
Sorry, not sorry. Things are set in motion, and it's way too late to change this game now.
Yeah, and what baffles me about this scene is that, obviously it's outside of the Maester's purview, so it wouldn't be written down in any of the books or anything like that, right? So this is outside, just like the church visit. But Alicent is realizing that she made a mistake, but she's making promises that she cannot fulfill.
Yes.
She is not in charge of anything anymore. She is the queen regent, right? She is not in charge of anything. She's the dowager queen, right?
She has no power whatsoever. It's all been stripped from her.
Yes.
And no matter what sway she thinks she has with her son or sons or whatever, or anybody, she has none. So you're right. She's writing checks that her ass can't cash.
Yeah.
And Rhaenyra is not stupid.
Yeah.
She's not stupid. So look, check it out. If you hadn't seen it, go back, watch it. It is a good season. It is a good show. It has good dialogue. It has great scenes. These actors are fantastic.
Now, but I will say, if you thought the beginning scenes of Game of Thrones were slow, then you're going to find this slow too.
Absolutely.
Okay? There's a lot of dialogue, a lot of lore building, chess pieces being put on the table. There's a lot of intelligent writing that is going on in this portion of the storytelling. And if you're engaged in it, if you're watching it, it's really cool. If that's not for you, that's not for you. Okay. That's, it's not for everybody, and it's not supposed to be, but at the same time, I've really enjoyed it. I think Pop's really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It's really good writing. It's really good storytelling and world building. So there's a lot there to enjoy. So please check it out. See what you think.
And then let us know. If you haven't, let us know, and then tell us what maybe we're wrong about, or what you didn't like about it, or what you like about it. But it is worth your time. It is, and it's only 8 episodes this season, so you can get through it, definitely. Maybe not quite like Matthew can get through content, but yes, you yourself out there can get through this show, I promise. Now, rounding third base, let's get on some Cobra Kai. This is I want to give you the starring role. I will tell you my thoughts about this series, and I was discussing a little bit before we came on. So I'm gonna hit it off here, and then I'll let you really take it. So this is, and I want to show you really quickly. This is one of the shows that the critics and the audience actually agree on. And there's a reason why. And it's because this show is really good. It is family friendly. If you have a family, this is something you can sit down with your mom who's in her 70s. You can sit down with your kids who are 10 years old, 8 years old. Yes, there are some language. There is some language. But ultimately, it is fantastic. It's on Netflix. Again, I can't, each episode somewhat kind of reminds me of those after school specials. There's morals, there are lessons, there's a lot of reverence for the history. There's a lot of not only maybe like flashback and stuff, but it's really good storytelling. It's really wholesome, but it's also really funny. And I guess the only one gripe, kind of, but it fits within the context of what they're doing because they know that it's kind of goofy, is a lot of the fights that kind of break out in different locales between the kids and other things. It's kind of like, what is happening here? But it does fit within the context of the show. I really have enjoyed it. I'm 3 episodes into season 6, which came out, recently, and I highly recommend anybody go and watch this show. They're easy episodes to watch, and it's a lot of fun. It's really, really fun.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've liked this from when it was on YouTube Red. The first 2 seasons were on YouTube Red before Netflix picked it up because YouTube Red folded, and they continued it, and they saw that it was the most popular thing on YouTube Red, and they said, hey, this is interesting, and it's really well done. And the actors that they brought in, every child actor they brought in, every new actor they brought into this property has been engaged in this thing the whole time. They said, this is really cool. And they got into karate. They did more and more training. They actually trained with people to learn more about karate so that they could better their performance going forward as somebody who's been trained in this. And so story-wise, I mean, this picks up 30 years after the last, Daniel Karate Kid movie, right? My biggest gripe is the fact that Daniel doesn't change through this series. Johnny changes a lot. This story is very much Johnny Lawrence's story.
Yes.
And I love the background stuff that they do with this. They bring back every single character from the first 3 Karate Kid movies. That they could. Pat Morita had already passed away by the time they started filming this, but they brought back everyone else from
people you don't even think like all of a sudden show up, and you're like, oh my God, that's him. That's that guy.
Well, they brought back the actress who was stuck up on the bell tower of Karate Kid 2.
Yeah.
Right. Not just Mariko, but the girl who was trapped in the bell that Daniel had to go rescue and all that stuff that happened. They bring back Chosen. The homage that they have played to these characters is so phenomenal. They did a whole entire episode of Johnny getting back together with the boys because one of his friends is suffering from cancer and they need to get out and do a camping trip. And they do this whole boys trip, camping trip. They do a whole episode on this. Shortly after the episode was finished filming, the actor who played the person who had cancer actually did have cancer and he passed away. So they dedicated the episode and the season to that actor because he took his last vestige in life to engage in this product, to tell this story of transition, of meeting back with his old buddies and finding that fire in themselves again. You have all these stories, and season 6 gets into it, and it goes back to the beginning of where Cobra Kai actually came from, and you bring in more of that lore, and I love that lore.
Yeah.
And how Kreese distorted it, but not really. But there's a whole nother side to the Korean aspect of this. So this is more Taekwondo than it is karate. Whereas so now you have a Taekwondo versus karate battle going on here, right? Because Cobra Kai is technically Taekwondo by the method of their talking about it, and the other one is actual karate because it's from Okinawa. And so you have the clash of cultures, which is a huge thing. The Japanese and the Koreans don't get along, and the Okinawans are. Okay. So I'll say this. It was defined to me as the Okinawans are considered to be the hillbilly rednecks of Japan.
Okay.
Because they're crossbred between the Chinese and the Japanese, the way they view things. And the islands were conquered back and forth so many times. They use the same language back and forth, but they focused on Japanese, but they use more Chinese characters.
And really quickly, no spoilers. I don't want to give any spoilers to anybody. A few people have asked about it. They're like, I don't want to listen. Is there any spoilers?
No spoilers.
And what you're talking about, that is not a spoiler, just so we know. Okay. And my bad to interrupt, but I just want to make sure that was
sure. Yeah. I not going too deep into that kind of stuff, but just going into the fact that they had this made and they had a 6-season vision of what they wanted to do, right? And they're getting to complete that, right? I don't like the Netflix release model. I wish they would do an episode a week, and that would keep people engaged and talking about it. The first part has dropped, and then there's going to be a second part, and then a third part. And then after that, there's going to be a whole other movie made with Jackie Chan and Ralph Macchio continuing the Karate Kid story. I don't know if that's going to tie in or not, but they finished filming the 6th season of the TV series and the Karate Kid movie with Jackie Chan and Ralph Macchio at the same time. So there's some of that. I have really engaged with it like this. I do karate. I love martial arts. I've loved these movies my entire life. I've been engaged and re-engaged in 2007 with the No More Kings, Sweep the Leg Johnny music video that came out. It's 7.5 minutes long.
It's a jam too. That song's cool.
It's so cool.
Yeah, super cool.
Right?
Yep.
So if you haven't seen it, Sweep the Leg by No More Kings is a phenomenal music video. 7.5 minutes music video. The song's much shorter, but 7.5 minutes. It's really awesome. It's the first time that a lot of these characters were brought back together to all be in one thing.
Yeah.
And this show, I think, is fulfilling a vision for these people to complete this story, to pass it off to the new generation, to say, hey, this is the way you pass off something. You don't discount the generation that came before. You honor the generation that came before, and you show them the value and the changes that they've made through their lives and the mistakes that they've made that they acknowledge and can pass that on to the next generation. And the next generation has to pick it up. And this is a generational story at this point, because these kids that are filming this show are doing an amazing job of representing their characters. And you have all these different conflicts, and the same conflicts that we dealt with as kids, that the current generation is dealing with as kids, and the next generation will deal with as kids growing up. When you get to that middle school, that high school era, when everybody's awkward and picking on the people that they feel are different or outside of their peer group or whatever it is, there's always going to be bullying. There will always be bullying on one fashion or another. And how you deal with that bullying is what defines you moving forward. And there's different philosophies on that. You know, you punch the bully in the face, then the bully becomes your friend, right? Or you try to brush it off and just ignore it and just, let the bully beat you down, but it doesn't really affect you, but it does. It eats away at your soul. You have to do something about it. You have to stand up for yourself and be courageous on some aspect of your life. You don't necessarily have to fight back fist to fist, but you have to fight back in some fashion. And I think that this Cobra Kai story really dives into the struggle of life, the struggle of relationships, and how relationships change as you get older, and how they change even when you're young, from one grade to the next, from one year to the next, how you get an understanding. There's this great conflict in this season or story between Daniel's daughter and this other girl who is Cobra Kai, and they get into this conflict, and they were like button heads, and they became real close friends, and then they're button heads again.
Yep.
Because there's differences, right? They come from totally different places, and you have to respect that, and you have to see how you can work through those differences to become friends, and realize that there's always a conversation to be had if you're willing to have that conversation. If you're not willing to have the conversation, then it's always going to be fighting. And again, more reason why I love this season and this show as much as I do is because the writing has been so good, so passionate, so
yes,
and so guided by a story that they want to tell. It's really worth checking out, and I highly recommend go back, watch the first 3 Karate Kid movies, and then watch No More Kings, Sweep the Leg, and then watch the series. And I think you will have a wonderful experience doing it.
And each episode is under 30 minutes. You know, it's they'll have some credits or whatever, but they're about 20 plus, you know, 22, 24, you know, with credits rolling up to right at, you know, close to 30-ish or whatever. But so they're easy to get through, and they are entertaining. Actually, they breeze by, so there's no slog to it. And actually, all of the younger actors are really good.
Yes,
they all do a good job. There's nobody sticks out where it's like, you know, that kid can't really act, or that kid can't. Like, there's really nobody like that. Right. You know, I found all of them to be really entertaining, and then in this recent season, we get to see a whole nother faction, so to speak. And there's flashbacks that kind of tie into that and everything. But yeah, like over the course of the series, it is cool to see those characters, and you do keep up with them, and it's really easy to like. It is written well. There are parts of it that are goofy, but it's appreciable goofy, or appreciative goofy.
I mean, the show's not perfect.
No, but it's also it's not, and it's also not supposed to be just completely like serious drama, but there is some drama in there, and there are characters that you feel for. There are also a lot of messages there. And when I say messages, I don't mean the kind of messaging we've been getting in our entertainment lately. There's a lot of good messages about responsibility, about taking care of a friend or a wife or a loved one,
family values,
yes, absolutely.
There's discussion on that.
Yeah, and so it sticks out in a sea of content that is so hyperbolic and narcissistic, and look at me, and how subversive can this show be, and all that kind of stuff. And this show really does, and I can only imagine how much of a treat it is for the actors, for, Ralph Macchio and William Zabka and even Martin Kove, to revisit these characters in a whole different way, right? In a sense.
Martin Kove is such a nice dude. I mean, I met him and William Zabka in person. They're both amazing, but Martin was so generous, so loving, giving, caring type of person. It's interesting to see the characters that he's played over time, and see how different he is as an actual human being to these people that he's playing, and how good of a job he does with it. Something I did want to touch on is also, Johnny's family in this show is a blended family.
Yes, it is.
Right? It is a mixture of his life and his girlfriend's life as they meld their families together. And Daniel's is his family as him and his wife and his kids. He's had that nuclear family develop, and the problems, and they both have problems, right? They both have their issues, and they're different issues. And the way they interact with those issues, I think, is really fascinating. It's very different. And I don't think anybody's brought any kind of humanity to the discussion on those kinds of topics. And another reason why I love this show.
Yeah. And even in particular, like the, episode in the season 6, without going too deep, but, Johnny, is an older person like I am, like you are, and you find out that if you have not maybe followed some of those basic tenets of life, or you've done things like building your credit or other things of that nature that you don't realize until, not necessarily that it's too late, but those things can come back to hurt you. And there's no immediate fixes for those problems. They take time, they take effort, they take energy, and someone that impatient would have issues with those things, right?
I loved the house buying scenes.
Yeah, no, that was great. That was great. And
I thought that was amazing. And I'm like, oh,
yeah,
that's right on.
real quick, I wanted to 3-star draw says curse Netflix for cracking down on passwords. I agree, and Disney's about to start it too. Clint Jorgensen says Cobra Kai season has been awesome so far. Loving Robbie. Yeah, man.
Robbie's been great.
Zabka does live in Nashville, and also says Clint Jorgensen says after season 1 led Miguel, but they ruined his character after season 2 to present. So we'll see kind of what.
I don't think so.
How that wraps up, I guess.
I like his character growth. I understand what you're saying. There's some stuff that goes on in there that really makes me mad, like how they present physical therapists, and that's bullshit.
Oh yeah.
But other than that, I love the show.
But I mean, ultimately, though, at least you are getting some arcs. And I know what you said about Daniel. We did see Daniel kind of down in the dumps, and his family, there's consequences, and his family also helps him as well, right? But there's consequences for those actions in a way. But then obviously the best of his family, so to speak.
The Daniel Miyagi storyline in this season, I'm not thrilled with, but I'm hopeful because Daniel's overreacting and doing his thing, which is why I don't see as much character development as I would like to have seen. Right. But at the same time, I'm like, I'm hoping that they go and they subvert expectations in a good way and work around this Miyagi storyline to be something different than what it appears to be.
Right. Yeah.
Currently.
I'm with you. But I do want to say one thing also. With the blended family with Johnny and everything, it's natural, right? Like it's natural. It feels natural. It doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel like, oh, here's a multicultural family we've made this. We make it a point to do this and that and show you this and talk about this. No, it's just really natural. It's like people being people, right?
Yep.
And the grandma is funny. I mean,
love her. She's amazing.
Yeah, some good characters in there, but it comes across as natural, unlike some of the really forced diversity we've seen in a lot of stuff. Yep. And so it really is a great show, and it is kind of a breath of fresh air. I remember watching it on YouTube Red, and I loved it at that time. And then I think after it kind of went off of there and moved over to Netflix, I don't think I had a Netflix subscription at that time. And so I just kind of, just fell off, so to speak, and whatever. But I've had a lot of fun really catching up with it. Awesome. And I can't wait, for the second part of season 6. I still have a few episodes to go in part 1, but yeah, for anybody out there, I definitely highly recommend it. Todd C says the fight scenes were better than Shang-Chi. That's great.
That's not hard, man. Sorry.
It's not. There is a really good one though in the 3rd episode of season 6. With it's Korea, right? And where they're at in when yeah. And they're and Kreese is back there, right?
Yep.
And so I thought that one between the students, I thought that was a really cool fight scene where he takes on 3 kids, 3 guys. I think that was really fun.
And like I said, each one of the actors that are in this show have taken it upon themselves to invest time into learning karate to some degree. And it's Hollywood, it's movie foo, it's even the karate training that they're getting that they think is legitimate is still Hollywood based.
Yeah,
And that's
Hollywood
fine
training.
because they're taking the time to actually look into some of the stuff and do it. And so
Yeah.
I appreciate them for that. And I can see their growth as they go through the seasons with Hawk and Robbie and Miguel. And there's so much to like about this, that people can, talk trash about all these things and
Right.
throw up buzzwords about political nonsense or whatever. The show doesn't have that.
Nope.
And it does it really well, so that because it's good storytelling. It's good storytelling, and that's all we're asking for.
It's just fun. It's a fun show, and it's breezy, and it make you laugh, right?
Yes.
It'll make you laugh. There's some great jokes. There's some funny jokes. There's poking fun at a few different things, out there in the zeitgeist and pop culture, even to an extent. There's even a Revenge of the Nerds joke in this most recent season, if you can believe that. I mean, how funny is that with the 80s reference? There's 80s songs in it. There's even that classic, that background music that would use that 80s guitar, if you know what I'm talking about, like from a Saved by the Bell episode or from an 80s movie. They would have that, and it's like got that kind of 80s soundtrack, so to speak, in it a little bit. It is a lot of fun. And look, yes, some of the kids probably are not, highly trained fighters. Look, camera angles and tricks you can use. If anybody thinks that Martin Cove is doing spinning kicks on anybody and catching somebody by surprise, you got another thing coming, all right? But with the magic of movies and the magic of Hollywood or whatever, it looks like he can throw a mean kick or throw a mean punch and take, whatever, spin around and do stuff. But yeah, no, it's great. That's interesting. I can't argue with that.
Clint? Clint, I gotta say, you've got 6 seasons of Cobra Kai. You've got 4 seasons of Stranger Things, and 2 of them were really good, and 2 of them were meh.
One of them was pretty bad. One of
them's pretty bad. I can't fault you for it, even though they keep talking about how many people watched the first season, and they built a phenomena thing on it. I love the first season. The first season was really good.
I absolutely did.
Really loved it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I did, and then tonally the show has definitely changed season to season.
Yeah, they watered it down. They didn't know where exactly they could go.
Right.
And, they're playing with that. But Clint, I don't think that's a hot take. I think
it's a good take.
I think it's a good take.
Yep, I do too. I will say though, real quick, it's so funny because every day I will flip through my phone and it gathers different news sources, right, and puts them all into one kind of thing you can click on, whatever. I can't tell you how many ridiculous like Screen Rant type articles that I see that are like Millie Bobby Brown quitting Stranger Things. She decided to do, like, it's like these headlines where they just declaratively like make this statement about, Stranger Things season 5 or whatever is indefinitely on hold. Is so and so, and it's always Stranger Things. It's never anything else. I get so many Stranger Things stories that are not even real, and they continually put these articles out like every day. It's so funny. What does 3-star draw say here?
Whew.
Okay. Stranger Things, the college years.
That's how long it's been between seasons, folks. That's how long it is between seasons. And that's unfortunately what we have to wait for with Hot D. Is 2 years from now to get it, because I don't know. I thought that they started filming or something earlier, but I don't know that that's true. So, hopefully in 2025, but maybe 2026, early 2026, we won't see the next season. I hope it's the end of 2025.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. We'll see, but unfortunately, it's look, I thought they got the most recent season out kind of a little quicker.
Yeah.
But obviously, I think we're going to be waiting on this next one. I think that's going to take some time, and we'll see what happens with the budget. But yeah, for anybody out there though, Cobra Kai, check it out. You'll love it, I promise. Especially if you have a Netflix account. And look, there are ways to watch things, folks.
Yeah.
Just use your imagination.
Use your imagination.
That's right. Use your imagination. I won't tell you anything, but I'll definitely tell you that use your imagination. If you want to watch a show or a movie, chances are you can probably find it. But yeah, man. So, is there anything else that you want to add or bring up here? What anything you've been watching or something, announcement or anything like that?
Well, no, I kind of. I mean, I know, we're more pop culture and stuff like that, but I did want to bring this up because I think it's been a fascinating discussion as of late. And that is the Frazetta girls versus the Frazetta Museum. Frankie Frazetta Jr. versus the granddaughter versus the grandson of Frank Frazetta, with the control of the rights and the stuff that they're doing right now is really interesting. The Frazetta girls did a comic book with Death Dealer. They're starting to release action figures, and Frankie Jr. has decided to partner with Savage Crucible and decided to release his own. And he's shown recently some artwork that he's said that Savage Crucible has the right to. And this Friday is the end of the pre-orders for this wave of Who-Mans. And I think this is, I love the Lumerians, the lizard people that they've done. They're doing some other ones there, but if you're into action figures, if you like this stuff, this guy right here is Frank Frazetta's artwork that they've designed a character off of, made an action figure of, and they're going to do that with more and more of the Frank Frazetta Jr. artwork. And I will say that there is the Frazetta Girls, which is also doing their own stuff, which mostly has been Fire and Ice. And so they have their own line of figures, and these the Dark Wolf and Tigra. Dark Wolf has already come out. Tigra is still coming, so there's potential to get that. And then the pre-orders for this start on the day that the pre-order ends for the Savage Crucible stuff. So if you like that Norseman figure that they've got there, I've really been. I
like that Tigra.
I haven't gotten any of the Frazetta Girl stuff, but it's made by Loose Collector.
Looks cool.
I've got a couple Loose Collector figures, and I like them a lot. And I'm hoping. I haven't gotten Dark Wolf. I'd like to get Tigra at some point. But each one of the factions, Frank divided his estate into 4 parts to his 4 children, and one of his daughters and granddaughter are doing the Frazetta Girls, and then his grandson has the museum right now, and they're the only ones that are actively using the licenses for anything, and they have different versions of it. So like the girls have Fire and Ice and Death Dealer, and Junior has more of the Conan stuff, and I don't know who's got John Carter of Mars. They may have some of that mixed between them.
Oh, cool.
But Savage Crucible is doing a lot of the Frank Frazetta Jr., the Frank Frazetta Museum artwork pieces, and Loose Collector is doing the girl stuff. The girl stuff is more expensive than Savage Crucible stuff, but they both look like really, really great stuff.
Basically, the godfather of the modern fantasy art, right? Is that kind of how he's revered? This is some great stuff here, man.
Oh, yeah. So
freaking awesome.
Yeah, Frank Frazetta was an incredible artist who designed a lot of book covers for a lot of different properties, but he's closely associated with Conan more particularly than anybody else. And so he's did that and Fire and Ice and some other stuff. But this one right there, that piece right there, that's going to be coming from Savage Crucible.
That looks cool, dude. Oh my God.
Yeah, I don't know which aspects of it they're going to get into, but hopefully they'll make some polar bears too.
oh yeah, no, I mean, absolutely, that would be fantastic. I mean, yes, this stuff is just
it is epic. It's awe-inspiring, and it's well worth looking into. The Death Dealer comic book I enjoyed a lot from Opius comic books. The Titan version of Conan that's out, and Savage Crucible has their own storyline. That's Death Dealer. Great stuff. I believe Loose Collector and the Frazetta Girls are doing a version of that that's going to be super expensive, coming out soon. I looked at that and I was like, that's out of my price range. Sorry, guys.
That's wild.
But yeah, so Frank got into all kinds of stuff, but his painted artwork is phenomenal. I encourage you guys to check that stuff out.
Yeah, man, that looks fantastic, dude. That Death Dealer looks badass for sure.
So Mezco did a Death Dealer, but I believe Loose Collector's making a horse and the Death Dealer to put them together for that art piece, and it's going to be a pricey piece.
All right, I love it. I know for a lot of y'all, definitely people in the chat tonight, maybe watching on a replay, definitely worth your time investing or looking into those for sure, man. With who's making those, figures. I mean, yeah.
But both people are associated with people that have product out there, so you can see the kind of stuff that they do. Yeah. And so we're not going to lose this product. This product is actually going to happen, is happening. So awesome. You don't have to worry about that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, man. That I might have to look into a couple of those because, there's a couple things I like there. That's some good stuff. The artwork is amazing.
Yeah,
for one.
For sure.
Well, hell.
And one last shout out is I want to thank everybody for checking out my Instagram. I'm up to 2,000 subscribers now, or followers now on that. So thank you guys.
Yeah.
I post stuff every day. I try to do different themes on different days, but you'll see a lot of my collection and the toys and the pictures I decided to take. I just got a couple features from some people recently for some stuff. So check it out. See what I've got. Appreciate you guys.
Yeah, man. No, that's awesome. 2,000. That's great. I mean, you consistently putting up fantastic pictures. I mean, it's just, and a steady stream of them too, man. I mean, but it just goes to show you, dude, like, people asking you, how do you watch these shows? How do you do this? How do you do that? Where do you find the time? You're working full time. You have family. Like, it's like, well, you sleep 5 hours a night, and that means that you're on it the rest of the time. That's it. You're on it. How you divvy it all up can be difficult, but you've obviously found a way to do it. And obviously that shows that anybody can do it, right? Where there's a will, there's a way.
Yes.
Yeah, man. No, that's awesome, dude. I'm very, very happy for you for that too, and as well deserved. So obviously they can find you at
Mamu's Action Figure Blog on Instagram, and Mamu's Action Figure Blog too. I post some of my B-sides over there. So
cool.
So check those out.
All right. And obviously you can find me here or on Instagram, PopBlender75. Usually just let everybody know about the streams. That's mostly it. A couple posts here or there, sharing a little bit. But yeah, man, every Tuesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern is where you'll find both of us and talking about a lot of the stuff we talked about tonight. And hopefully we'll get some more news next week and bring up some more topics. Obviously every other Wednesday I do a stream with 3-Star Draw, a G.I. Joe centric stream called Sevens Wild. And so, yeah, to everybody in the chat, thank you so much for hanging out. Anybody on replay, thank you for watching, and hit that like button, subscribe if you like what you hear. And we will talk again really soon. We'll be back again, like I said, next Tuesday. Thanks again, everybody. We really appreciate it. I really appreciate it. And we'll check you guys in a week. Thanks so much.